There we go. Hi everyone. Really happy to be live with T G Campell. Do you want to start us off with an intro to you and your books, just in case no one knows who you are?
Yeah, so my name's T G Campell. I write as T G Campell, and I write the Bow Street Society series, which in a nutshell is about a group of ordinary people who use their skills and knowledge from their ordinary jobs to solve extraordinary crimes in Victorian London. The first book in the series is Case of the Curious Client, and with currently 7 books published in the series, the most recent one being The Case of the Fatal Flaw. There's also the Bow Street Society Casebook short story collection series. There's currently 6 of those. And I also appeared in the UK Crime Book Club charity anthology Criminal Shorts as well.
You did?
Yes.
Sorry, I was just tagging everybody in.
That's all right.
I feel like The Case of the Fatal Flaw, it was really good, but I sort of felt like that was definitely written for the fans.
Yes, I kind of feel like I've always said to people, and I think I said to you several times, that there's only going to be 10 books in the series. So I think I'm very much get to the point where I have to sort of consciously think, especially with all the plot lines that are going on with the series and people have been following certain characters' lives, that it's getting to the point where it is very much for the fan series. That's why I always say to people, you can read them out of order, but I recommend that you start with the first one. And I think that definitely was in my mind as I was writing it. And I mean, you could see how thick it is. You don't break your foot if you drop it. I didn't actually expect it to be that long, but a lot of that stuff is to do with the characters and what's happening in their lives, and also, but what's a lot of stuff gearing up towards like books 8, 9, and 10, sort of towards the end of the series. So it very much is. I had the fans in mind while I was writing that.
Yeah, because there's some big changes, isn't there? I feel like I'm really bad with names when it's not like people I teach.
Yeah. Well, give me the occupation, I can tell you who it is.
It was really bad. It's like you have to be in my classroom for me to remember. Inspector Wolf, yes. I feel like he's maybe got something potentially going on with him that might be more sinister than we think.
Okay. What, more than the usual?
Well, yeah, but he's like, I don't know.
Because he's always been against the society, because as a policeman, but he's very much sort of, they should be putting themselves in danger sort of purposely. He always thinks that's the police's work. They shouldn't be getting, members of the public shouldn't be getting involved in police work. So he's very much been, from that point of view, his heart's always been in the right place. And yeah, so I think I do know what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. See, you worked it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's something going on with him that's maybe going to be sad.
Possibly not.
You're just going to be evil about all of the things, aren't you, while we talk? Because big things happen for Dr. Weeks. And yes, even though I am not a fan of him, some of those things shouldn't have happened to him.
No. I think with Dr. Weeks, very much has been on his own character journey. He very much was written initially in Curious Client as this obnoxious Canadian who really wasn't necessarily written to be liked. But I think as you've gone through the series, you've got more of an idea of why he is, again, like why he's the way he is. That similar way with Mr. Maxwell, you found out why he became sort of the bumbling fool, really. But with Dr. Weeks, you get more of his backstory, and like you say, things happen to him in the Fatal Flaw that kind of send him on a downward spiral, and so that's where he ends up where he does by the end of the book. We're being really cryptic.
Yeah, right. We're like, there's a no spoiler thing, so you have to be a bit cryptic.
Yeah, but
Mr. Maxwell and Miss Dexter are still kind of absent, aren't they?
Yes. So, because basically, Curious Client series starts in January 1896, and by the time we get to Fatal Flaw, I think, yeah, we're just January 1897. So it's quite in a way, it's quite a short period of time between like books like 1 and 7. But yeah, in January 1897, Miss Dexter is off to Paris with Lady Alston and Miss Webster, who are other members of the society, because Miss Dexter is the artist, and she wanted to go to the Louvre and to sort of spread her wings a little bit, and to Lady Alston very much wanted to sort of introduce her to polite society and again expand her horizons. Meanwhile, Mr. Maxwell has gone to New York with his brother to close some of his father's business dealings. And if you know the series, you know Mr. Maxwell, you know that's never going to end well.
Are we going to have a book in New York?
My plan is, what I want to do is, once I've done the sort of main series, is actually have like a Beyond the Bow Society sort of spin-off series. And I do want to have a book which is Mr. Maxwell in New York, but also Miss Dexter in Paris, because they're both there at the same times in their respective places. I want to have sort of, you have it like one chapter's like Mr. Maxwell, another chapter's Miss Dexter, and to do it that way, but it would be a separate book basically. So because they're will they won't they romance, as part of the reason why they've even gone abroad. So I think it'd be quite interesting to see how they change as characters over the course of that as well, over the course of their month away.
And you could have research trips to New York and Paris.
Well, I am planning to go to Paris next year, actually, yeah. So I do have a book called Paris and its Environs, and it's actually from the 1800s. It's got maps and sketches and things of Paris back then. But yeah, I would like to go to Paris to actually compare, to see like what it's like now compared to then, just to get more of an idea of the streets and the places. That when you do write it, you've got a better feel for it in your mind as well. I don't know about New York, because I'm not a very good flyer. I don't like flying.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You get over it the more you fly.
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever flown. Well, I've been abroad sort of twice. So I've flown 4 times in my whole life, and that last time I've flown was over 10 years ago. So yeah, if I fly more, I probably would get more used to it. But at the moment, I'm a bit. I mean, I would, if it was an amazing holiday, I would go. I would just, maybe drink a couple of vodkas before I get on the plane. But
I have a brother who's a pilot, so you can't be a nervous flyer.
Oh, okay. I said my friend's cabin crew, and he always goes, I've done over 1,000 flights without any problems. Okay, so if you were on the plane, I'd feel better, but I can't guarantee you're going to be in the plane.
Yeah, and he tells my brother will like tell you stories about things, and you'd be like, it's a good thing I'm not a nervous flyer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So are we going to get Bow Street books in 8, 9, and 10? Are we going to have Mr. Maxwell and Miss Dexter back in the society? Are they going to return from Paris and New York in time for the end?
So at the moment, my plan is for Mr. Maxwell to turn up at the end of book 8 and be like, so what have I missed? And then it'd be like, you want to sit down for this? And then I've missed Dexter at the moment. She's still in Paris. I think she will be back by possibly, if not the end of book 8, but definitely book 9, I think. I haven't quite decided yet. But at the point I'm writing at the moment in book 8, Miss Lady Alston and Miss Webster have returned, but without her. She stayed on in Paris for a little bit longer because she's like, I'm having a great time. Why would I want to come back?
Yeah, but without a chaperone? She's
got a so they were staying with Lady Alston's female friend, so she's basically become her chaperone while she's stood over there. Yeah, she's not completely on her own, no.
Yeah, I don't.
Miss Dexter, she's quite unworldly, but not in the same way Mr. Maxwell is. But yeah, she's still quite naive, I think. She's only 18, so.
How old's Mr. Maxwell then?
21. He is older than her, yeah. Just not that you think it, like you'd think he was probably younger. But yeah, he is just slightly older than her, yeah.
I've never warmed to Mr. Maxwell, I'm sorry. I know people like him, but...
Well, no, some people, people will say to me, he's like Marmite, they either hate him because they just want to pick him up and shake him, or they love him. So that's not an unusual reaction to him, to be honest. I think people have quite enjoyed the break with him not being in the books.
Yeah, I'm in the pick him up and shake him.
Yeah.
If I'm honest.
I mean, I do have an idea of what would have happened to him while he was in New York. So when he comes back, even though he didn't necessarily mention it a lot in the series, I want it to be a standalone book. I think he will be changed to a degree. He's not going to be as much of a bumbling fool. But he's still going to be Mr. Maxwell, unfortunately. He will still say things about thinking. He'll still volunteer things about thinking and just go headstrong into things about thinking, but that's just the way he is, unfortunately.
You spend a lot of time in this one talking about addiction as well as a theme. Without giving anything away, it's a very strong theme in this book, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because before this is Dr. Weeks is a heavy drinker. Mr. Locke, the illusionist, he is a heroin addict as well. And I quite this one scene where they both sort of have not a heart to heart, but they have like a discussion about that. And I think it's interesting to sort of see how, because Mr. Locke has been very lucky in the sense that his wife is a doctor and she's actually helped him through his rehabilitation, through being able to get off the heroin, and because she's using a actual sort of detox plan from the 1880s that I found. So he's very much been able to do it at home and in the comfort of his own home. He's been very private, whereas Dr. Weeks's addiction has ended up being quite public and quite humiliating, and other people have actually become involved with that, and it's been quite traumatic for him. But again, it's interesting sort of showing those two different, routes that people could take with addiction back then. And again, for Dr. Wick especially, sort of did a lot of research into how he would end up where he ends up, how he would have got sort of diagnosed and that sort of thing. So that really opened my eyes, because it also shows sort of how things have moved on, even by 1897, away from sort of the days of like the 18th century, and how easy it could be to put somebody sort of in that place. And by the time we sort of get to 1897, it's very much more stringent, and you have to go through a few more hoops basically to get to that point. So, but yeah, I always end up inadvertently putting themes in my books. There's a lot of themes about our parents and problems with parents and fathers in particular. I'm not quite sure why that's ended up being a thing, but it somehow did.
So were they not all planned, some of those themes?
No, I think when I very much sort of when I first started looking at the series and started creating the characters, it was very much sort of initially was defined by their sort of occupations, and I thought, well, each one has to have a flaw, so what can their flaw be? And then just naturally, it's ended up just sort of developing as it goes along, especially with Mr. Maxwell's situation with his father. That wasn't necessarily planned. I mean, even his will they won't they romance of Miss Dexter was not planned until literally they touched hands in the first book. I was like, oh, we're going to do this now, are we? And then, when we got to book 5, you find out obviously more about his own past and his father and his relationship with that. But again, so when I wrote Dr. Weeks in book 1, I didn't envision him getting to where he is now. It was literally, I think I was writing a scene in book 6. So I thought, that's an interesting possibility. And so I've just sort of ran with it basically from there. So sometimes you very much have to just let the characters lead you to a certain extent, and also, then sort of double check with the research that actually that could happen.
That's the thing I think is a really telling thing about the books, is that they are really well researched.
I always second guess myself. I think, is that, but I mean, luckily I've been able to sort of contact curators of museums and collections and archives and everything to be able to actually get sort of almost not first hand, but get expert sort of input into the research, so I know what I'm putting in is correct.
Yeah, and you always put like your sources at the back as well, don't you? Or some of them, people that you've spoken to,
that
you've read that are helpful, so people can go and check out more information.
Yeah, I think because the first edition of The Curious Kind was very much a lot more in the line of the style of Kate Summerscale's, especially Mr. Witcher. It was very much almost like a non-fiction book. It had a lot of descriptions, a lot of like a lot of research backed up. So that's one of the reasons why I put the source reference in there. But also, sometimes you will do some research and it's something, you'll turn up something that's quite unexpected that you think, oh, I didn't know they had that technology or they had that back then. Sometimes I think it's good to put it in because the reader might have the same thought and think, I didn't think that had that back then. If you've got a legitimate source and then back that up, then it's sort of, it gives you a bit of credibility. And also certain things, I try to make sure I've got 1 or 2 sources that actually, again, sort of fetish is quite a key bit of research, especially around the sciences and how they detect poisons and that sort of thing. But I think, if I end up doing the Beyond Bow Society series, I probably won't end up putting the source of reference in that series, but it's just become a thing now. It's just like a thing that people expect to see the source of reference at the back. So they are all the references that I use and how they inform the book. as well as like notes from the author as well, explaining my thought process and things as well.
You do, I mean, you've sort of explored sort of very sort of key things about that kind of Victorian society as well, haven't you? So we've had like spiritualism, boxing, you know, even the things like the bits of addiction and stuff like that are like sort of common themes that, you know, if you had to go back and sort of say things that you think would be things you knew about those times, is there anything like one of those themes that you still haven't sort of explored yet and would want to?
I think very much what I want to explore. I mean, the British Society is meant to reflect society as a whole, and at the moment, obviously, you've got people from, you know, working class, upper class, middle class, people with disabilities, people older, younger. But I very much want to sort of explore sort of the minorities within Victorian London, and I know I'm on book 8 in the main series, but I'm only on volume 6 in the short story collection, so I've still got a lot of scope, because there is actually a character in the short story collection, Mr. Cheshire, who's a jeweler. He's only ever appeared in the short story collection, but I do have plans to introduce a new member into this current short story collection I'm working on at the moment, and then I plan to bring them into books 9 and 10. So I just feel like there has to be that. I think it just feels there's a gap in that at the moment, and that's you know, but I also at the same time want to be very sort of respectful, and also, you know, for me, all the characters in the members of society is whatever sort of trait you could say, you know, you could almost define them, like, you know, Mr. Skinner's got one hand, and, you know, say Mr. Locke's got addiction, or, you know, I kind of want, like, I want to do it so that that's just part of who they are. It's not everything of who they are. So I just want to make sure I approach it in that way as well, that it's, this person is from that particular background, but that's just a part of the rich tapestry of who they are, but also addressing sort of the kind of prejudices and restrictions really that they would have faced as well in that time. So that's very much a challenge that I want to face head on really before the end of the series.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I think they are very well-rounded characters.
Yeah,
that are in there. There are the few people who appear in short stories and haven't kind of come out in the like the main stories. I mean, obviously there are people who are going to read all of the bits like me.
So the jeweler, jeweler only appears in a couple of short stories, because at the moment I'm not really. You'd think that in a crime fiction series there'd be quite a lot of opportunities for a jeweler to appear, but there's not been an opportunity for him yet to actually appear in the main series. But then it's also so, because it's very much based upon their occupation. Some people just don't always have the need to bring them in. So Mr. Bertram Heath, for example, the architect, he's appeared in quite a few short stories, and I think he was in the first book. And I think he actually has he really appeared? I can't remember. But yeah, he's definitely not appeared as much as the others in the main series.
There's a guy who's a vet as well.
Oh, Dr. Rupert Alexander, yeah, he's appeared in quite a few. He's actually quite good pairing with Mr. Skinner, because Dr. Rupert Alexander is the veterinary surgeon, then you've got Mr. Skinner, who's the ex-Royal Navy / bodyguard now, and they strangely get on really well in the short stories. So I quite like pairing them up.
Where was I going with this question? I'm sorry. There is the guy who does physiognomy, the
Dr. Colbert.
Yes.
He
is in it, and I wanted to call him Dr. Colbert as well. I'm doing quite good with the names.
Lots of doctors.
Yeah. But he very much kind of has an ulterior motive for being in the Bow Street Society, and only loosely has a science.
Yeah. I mean,
even like the Bow Street Society are a bit like, do you really believe that? Aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he very much was picked. Obviously, I mean, the reader knows why he's actually in the society, because obviously they're in on the secret, shall we say, and he was very much picked because of that interest, and because the people who picked him for, we need somebody who can go in every single case. And I think Miss Trent was like, she did question that, and she did a bit of research herself, but he does say that he knows that it can go so far, but he's interested obviously more in Illness of the Mind and everything. But again, back then, Illness of the Mind was still very much, so understanding it was still very much in its infancy. So he's got best intention, he wants to help people, but he's very restricted in what he can do to actually help people. So it's very much trying to treat the symptoms rather than get to the cause really of things. But at the same time, he again has got a very sort of strong idea of morality and what's right and wrong, and that's what guides him. And people will say to me they wonder how things are going to end for him in the society, because there's a couple of bits, I think, especially in Fatal Flaw, I think, where he starts to doubt himself why he's there. And he's sort of like, I actually quite like these people, and it's no, I'm not, don't get pulled in, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that there's a development between Inspector Lee as well, isn't there, and Mr. Elliot.
That's Mr. Elliot, yeah.
Kind of interesting.
Which again wasn't planned. Like, I mean, when I brought in Inspector Lee in Spectral Shot, because Wolf came in the second book, Lonesome Washington, and then Inspector Lee came in Spectral Shot. Inspector Lee was very much almost like brought in to, again, sort of pair up with Wolf against the society, because Inspector Lee, he's sort of almost like the archetypal villain, really. He's corrupt, he likes to live a certain lifestyle, and he will do anything basically to protect that lifestyle, and so he sees the society very much as a possible threat to that. But yeah, he meets Mr. Elliot, who's a solicitor and member of society, and he basically becomes quite obsessed with him quite quickly. So, and obviously back then, sort of being homosexual, you know, was highly illegal, a very secretive sort of community. And so him being an inspector with Scotland Yard and Mr. Elliot being quite highly regarded as a solicitor means they have to be very careful how they go about that. But also Mr. Elliot's got a lot of conflict within himself. It's not that he's ashamed of his feelings, he's just very aware of how dangerous those feelings could be for him in that society at the time.
Yes, and that's quite an interesting kind of development in the story, I think. Like seeing how those two,
how they sort of get to where they get to the end at the end of the book. I always worry about, do characters do what they would normally do? Are they out of character? I always ask my beta readers, whatever you read in the book, do you think that's out of character? Or if it is out of character, do you think there's actually enough of a lead up or enough of a development or a journey so that actually when you get to that point you think, okay, right, that feels natural? And that's one thing I always do worry about. I mean, there's one bit that I was planning for book 8, which I've now completely abandoned one thing. So I thought that'd be great as a plot point, but the characters would never do that. So I just abandoned it completely, because I think it'd be just too jarring if it's just doing it just literally just for the sake of a dramatic scene. It needs to be something that they would do, but also have reasons to do and motivations to do.
We got hello from Donna and a bit of an apology for being late.
Hello.
Yeah, it's always good to have Donna, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Has she asked you her question that she sometimes pops on the author chat yet about if you've given any of your characters a trait or a habit that you wish you hadn't?
I don't think that's an interesting question.
It's a very good question, which is why I've just purloined it anyway.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Possibly, I think with Mr. Maxwell, possibly his stutter, maybe, because I think that's one of the reasons why people find him a bit annoying, because when he gets very nervous, his stutter becomes quite obvious, and I think that can sort of rile people a little bit, maybe. But at the same time, that's the way he grew up and was raised. That's kind of way he would be. And I suppose to a certain extent, like Miss Trent is very guarded. She has to be. So she's the clerk of society. She basically runs the show. She recruits members, she listens to potential clients, she commissions cases, she facilitates meetings. But because of that, she has to sort of go above sort of relationships, be above that sort of more mundane sort of day-to-day things. And I think it's been a bit of a challenge to actually bring her a bit more to the foreground as a human being rather than just as this figurehead. So that's been quite interesting.
It has, because there is sort of people trying to dig into her past, aren't there, to work out
why is she doing what she's doing.
Why she's doing what she's doing, what the society is about, to varying degrees of success.
Yes,
I think.
Yes, because they want to know, is there some criminal agenda behind all of this? Are they as squeaky clean as they claim to be? I mean, even Mr. Locker's not exactly, apart from his addiction, there has been rumours previously that he might have been a bit sticky fingered with certain people's jewelry that he's been to dinner parties of. So it's, you know, there are certain members who do cast a shadow of the society as a whole. But yeah, that Inspector Lee and Inspector Wolf very much are trying to dig under the surface, try to find something, anything that could basically disgrace the society. But they're also intrigued to find out how it was created, who created it, and why. So
I can imagine Inspector Locke being a little bit of a kind of Lupin style gentleman thief.
Or Mr. Locke, yeah.
Yeah, he'd be
Yeah, I mean, obviously, because in the first book, he scales a house to get into the house to find out there's no furniture in the building. Do you know what I mean? And he hasn't done that so far, like since then. But yeah, he loves the danger. I mean, he loves being on stage, and one of the reasons why he gets into heroin initially is because he just likes that high. He's addicted to that high, and he very much does love that side of being a thief. And also just think he's very arrogant. So he just thinks, you know, I'm much more clever than the police. I'm much more clever than the people that I'm stealing from. And so he's a bit smarmy in that sense. But people still think they quite like him as well because he's still got that vulnerable side to him, and he is flawed. He's not just a 2D sort of cartoon character, really.
I don't think any of the characters are 2D. I quite like the sort of people who come in by accident as well, like the pot boy who's sort of being drawn into the society.
Toby, yeah.
I think that's like a really sweet kind of story. So he could go like a bad way, but rather than let him go to like the workhouse or something, they're trying to help him.
Well, they are kind of responsible for him being homeless and jobless. So it's like, well, we couldn't really let him just go and be like, yeah, I could say in the workhouse, because yeah, he worked at the pub in the book 6. So the society work on that case meant that he did, you know, get in the situation he is. But at the same time, again, it's nice to have him in the house. That it helps Miss Trent become a more sisterly figure, a bit more, you know, domestic. It's a, you know, it's a bit more comfy for her because it's a massive house that she's actually in. I mean, you know, you think about it, it's actually just quite a lot of rooms. There's 2 floors above the ground floor, so you know, it's quite a big house she's actually in. So there's only 2 of them at the moment. Well, then Big Miss Hicks moves in, but yeah. It's good. Yeah, I do like sort of, if I can, reuse characters who have been in previous cases. So Mr. Noah Hannigan from book 6 also makes an appearance in book 7. I like to go back to like locations that they might have previously visited. So the ABC tea room is something that's come up quite a few times. Because I just like the whole idea of creating that universe and the connections and the spider web almost of all different characters.
Yeah. I mean, Miss Hicks moving in as well also gives you a bit of a human side to Miss Trent in this book. So yes, she, instead of just being the cool kind of leader of the society that we've had through most of them, in this one she actually shows like flashes of emotion, doesn't she? And
yeah. I think with Max, I think in book 6 you do get more of that emotion with Miss Trent in it, because obviously the whole thing happened to Mr. Maxwell murder. She was quite shocked about that stuff had been going on that didn't know anything about it, felt quite guilty. But she does have a history of Miss Hicks as well. So Miss Trent herself is bisexual. So she was engaged to a man before she came to London, and then she did have a history of Miss Hicks as well. So it's, yeah, that side of things, yeah, it's good to like explore that. But also I think in book 7 you do see a different part of the house which is purely reserved for Miss Trent's own personal use. So she has her own set of rooms and stuff. So, you know, the parlour and the meeting room you see downstairs is not necessarily what she always uses. She tends to use, when she wants to be alone, she tends to use that upstairs area.
There is, I was talking to Alice Hawkins yesterday, and we were discussing the fact that it's rare in historical fiction to sort of have characters who are LGBT.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we couldn't think of that many examples where it happened. It doesn't. Yeah. Alice has a gay man as a main character in her book. There's David Bishop. Or we could think of E.S. Thompson as well, with Jem Flockhart, who kind of dresses as a boy. But you have a few characters in yours, and I think it's really good that we kind of have that representation.
Yeah, but also, like I say, I like the fact that that is just part of who Miss Trent is, and like just part of who Mr. Elliot is. You know, it's not just, they're not just a label. You know, it's just it's just a different part of society, and I think it's important to show all members of society, but as human beings, and not as, like I say, a label or a caricature of a particular sort of community. And I think also sometimes, I think especially with homosexual male relationships, you can quite easily sort of drift into the more erotica type side of things. And I'm very conscious that yes, they have emotions, yes, they have attraction toward each other, but that's not the be all and end all. It's a very complex relationship between Lee and Mr. Elliot. It's not just as simple of just that physical attraction. There's a deeper level to it than that. And I very much wanted to make sure I represent that and actually explore that. And I think again with Miss Trent and Miss Hicks, there was a deeper relationship there. It wasn't just that physical attraction. And I think, you know, as much as hidden as it was back then in the 19th century, it's still people are still there. People are still, you know, living, breathing, going about their lives. And so it's very important to me to actually make sure those people are also covered in the books, because I say society is meant to be representative of society as a whole. So as much as Miss Trent has to protect secret society, she's also in on Mr. Elliot's own secret. So she's almost the confidant of all those people as well within society itself.
Yeah, but then that's kind of what makes them more real, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, you would have people. It's a cross section of society. There would be people dealing with that.
Yeah.
And they are dealing with it and still doing their life.
Yeah, and because basically the society itself, that the wealthy members will donate to society to allow for the poor members to take part, but also to allow society to take cases from poor people without having to charge them. So there is that sort of pot that, you know, it's all helping each other really to make sure everybody gets access to the justice that everybody deserves.
Donna says, do you have to swat up on your books before an interview, or do you have an exceptional memory?
I have quite a good memory most of the time. I have to actually swap up on my books when I'm writing the next book. I have to go back to the other books and think, did that conversation happen? Actually, because I edit as I go along. So sometimes I'll remember a conversation which I go back to and I think, oh, that actually didn't make it to the book. That was an earlier version of an earlier scene. So I have to then take out the reference to it in the new book. But I go back and read something thinking, I don't remember that character. I don't remember that happening. I'm just like,
do you not keep notes as you go, like sort of things you can go back to as a quick reference?
I do. So if I have ideas, I write them down. I've got a lot of research that I've like ideas and notes that I have like in Word files. Then I forget I have them. But each character's got a character profile, which all the details, like their date of birth, their history, and key like plot points. But now I think I'm getting to the point now where I think I know the main character so well now that I don't necessarily need to go back in terms of knowing how they would speak or how they would react. But I think key things like when Mr. Elliot and Inspector Lee are thinking about things that have happened previously, or the things that happened previously, I have to go back and just double check that from the book while I'm doing the current book. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've got a spotless memory of my books, but I've got an okay one.
You do pretty well, to be fair. Like, I've asked you questions across a range of the books and you've answered all of them.
Yeah. I think it's because I'm in the depth of book 8 now, so I think that's probably why I'm actually immersed in the world. I think if you asked me if I'd stopped writing for a couple of months, you asked me then, I'd be like, I don't know.
What's the theme for book 8?
Well, so how do I go? So I think, I can talk about the broader theme. So obviously 19th century is notorious for people being poisoned. So there's more poisoning, but it's a more domestic setting of poisoning in this book. Beyond that, I can't tell you because it would be too much of a spoiler.
Okay. And you won't give us anything, will you, about these things? Because I think I asked you last time if all the characters were going to make it out alive, and you were like, I'm not promising anything.
No, yeah. So the next question. I could tell you. So basically, in this book I'm currently working on, somebody comes to the society, and she says to them that she thinks she's being poisoned, and she basically wants them to investigate to find out if A, she's being poisoned, and B, who in her household is poisoning her. So she's not dead yet, But basically that's what she is asking them to do. So that's
it's a good concept.
because I do like to experiment in different sort of ideas and notions. Like Inspector Shot, it was very much a cold case. I thought, how would they approach a cold case? They weren't there at the time. You know, the evidence potentially is gone. You know, how are they going to approach that? So I quite like that in Spectral Shot. And that's quite similar with like Puga's Ploy. It was a cold case, but it was like there's an unknown cold case because basically, you know, it was a murder that happened again, you know, years before, but because another murder happens, that's how that was uncovered. So, but I think this one, I like the idea of, yeah, well, can they actually prevent a murder? You know, how would they go about preventing a murder? Because quite often they're called in, you know, once the body's dead, or even like, you know, obviously in yes, in Fatal Four, they're called in after the person's died. So it's, you know, quite often that's the case. So it was quite interesting to actually see how they would approach that sort of, you know, and how, especially like, you know, because the poisoning case, how Dr. Locke would go about diagnosing somebody if they have got sort of poisoning or if it is like a physical condition, normal condition, like natural condition. So, but there is more to it than that, but I honestly can't say.
Fair enough. In the last one, Fatal Flaw, we get the Birmingham Bow Street Society as well.
Yeah. So
when you do your Beyond the Bow Street Society books, would you be tempted to do a Birmingham case?
Yeah. So in the Fatal Flaw, yeah, they go to Birmingham to speak to the Birmingham police there, because that leads on to leads on from, so in the Bombology, there's the case of the contradictory corpse, and you do actually meet members of the Birmingham Bow Street. I think I would love to do a Birmingham set novella, especially with like, because they meet Detective Inspector Matthew Donahue from the Birmingham Police. I love the whole idea of Birmingham back then, and so many buildings which no longer exist, and it's just, I think it would just, again, it's just a different, you know, vision and different viewpoint of Birmingham as we know it today. So I would love to maybe even do like, you know, a novella of short stories, or even like a little mini series of just Donahue's cases maybe. But obviously because Conway himself has got, his sister lives in Birmingham, so he's got that link to Birmingham. So if I end up doing something with Conway, he could potentially go back to Birmingham to see his sister and, you know, and rekindle that friendship with Donahue as well. So there's so many possibilities, so many characters, so many possibilities.
Yeah, and there's so many that'd be great to read as like their own stories, I think.
Yeah, it helps. It would also be good to like be able to explore different genres. I mean, because I asked some of the readers the other day, like, who would they like to see a spin-off for? And a lot of them said they would like to see Mr. Skinner's prequel and how he lost his hand and how he was like when in the ships and stuff. And that could be quite a swashbuckling adventure, I think, with him in his, you know, earlier years and stuff, and how he joined the Navy and things. And but again, you've got Mr. Verity. He's a spiritualist. I could see him being more of a ghost story, more traditional haunted house ghost story. And then Mr. Locke, I very much envision him possibly being more like a spy thriller. So again, you could take the characters but just play around with a slightly different genre within that sort of sphere, really.
Yeah, and that'd be really fun.
Yeah, but even like something like Mr. Snyder, who's a cabman, he potentially could get involved in all sorts because he just overhears so much just by driving a cab around London. So he could technically have his own little spin-off series, just where he inadvertently solves crimes just by earwigging.
John, I'm not a fan of Birmingham, apparently. Spent a bit of time there recently and thought it was quite run down. I think it depends on the bit of Birmingham you go to, actually.
Yeah.
Because it can be a nice city.
Yeah, it's like all places though, isn't it? You always get that sort of more rundown side of it, but then you get the nicer bits. So
I think cities change from like place to place as well, because you can go to like areas of like the city I live in and it looks run down, and then like the 2 streets over it's got like beautiful big houses.
Yeah, same Milton Keynes. Yeah, exactly same here.
And it's wild because it's like the same postcode.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, like, you know, looking at like Booth's poverty maps from like the 1880s of London, you've literally got that sort of scenario. You've got like, you know, the black, which is like, you know, really poor semi-criminal, and the next street you've got like you know, the comfortable middle class. You know, it literally is like street to street, like that divide.
Which is kind of an interesting thing, isn't it? And I guess that's a good thing about the Bow Street Society is that they can explore that because they do have that funding to kind of help people who are poorer. So
Yeah.
you do get that, like, and with the members of the society, like you said, you've got like the guy who is driving the cabs and things like that. So you've got like a range of people in it.
Yeah, you can approach these different groups of people and actually they won't necessarily feel threatened by them because of their class or something. And everybody's got sort of their avenues into these different sort of spheres that maybe the police wouldn't have access to because the police are seen as quite, it's more a formal force, isn't it? And sometimes it's quite corrupt and stuff. So I think people are more mistrusting of the police within the universe of the book. So the society are able to go to places that maybe the police wouldn't be able to go.
Would you ever go a bit more modern, like have a modern day Bow Street Society?
I have been asked this, and I do. For me personally, I think the most recent one would probably be set in 1920, possibly. I feel like once you get beyond that point, I think there'd be less of a demand for the kind of way that the society operates. I think there's a lot more reliance on science and more forensics, that sort of things. I think some of the more periphery members might not have as much of an input because there'd be more of that sort of science, sort of evidence. But I think also by 1920, you've had the First World War and Spanish flu and all that sort of stuff. So it'd be interesting again to see how members have survived that, if they have survived that, how they come out on the other side. So I do have an idea for the one-off. But again, that would be part of the Beyond the Bow Street Society series, a one-off just set in 1920. So you'd find out, what happened to Miss Trent, what happened to all the other members, basically, and just to round it off, basically. So that is one idea I've had. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I think in terms of actually an active sort of society and in terms of active sort of cases, I think that would be the latest it could go, I think.
I don't know, if you think about it now, like the sort of definitely people like the Met Police in London probably don't have that great a reputation kind of publicly.
Yeah.
So, and you can have like these true crime aficionados like solving crimes on the internet and stuff, can't you? So you could have a modern Bow Street Society. You could have like
just for a website, Bow Society forum.
But they could come together and solve stuff. You could get like people who've got. There are lots of people who have things in science that could be a.
Oh yeah, there would be. Yeah. That would be a whole different challenge, I think. So at the moment, my focus is just getting on with the things, just getting to book 10.
Get into the police website and things like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, there could be a lot of scope for more modern sort of occupations, I suppose, and that sort of thing. But then the question is, who would set it up? Would somebody discover this society that used to be around the 19th century, and they think that's a good idea, and they set up their own version of it? Is that backstory? And you'd obviously have to have new characters. I suppose technically you could have descendants of the original members, but that would all depend on whether or not the original members had children or not. So it's maybe. But I think at the moment, I'm just focused on getting to book 10 and then seeing where we go from there, really.
Donna says she wants to see a final Bow Street Society where the surviving members are in an old people's home chatting about the old days.
Well, I think that's one reason I wanted to do 1920, because Conway would be in his 70s, so he'd be an old man, but older than he is now, and I could see him just being a really grumpy, just really cantankerous, and I think that'd be just hilarious. Just Miss Trent paying him a visit, and he'd be like, yeah, that'd just be so funny. But but then at the same time, I have made decisions stuff like the Titanic. Mr. Locke and Dr. Locke would want to go on the Titanic. So if they went on the Titanic, would they survive? Because that's something that he would love just to boast about, that he's going on the maiden voyage of the Titanic. So it's that sort of thing that have to make decisions about, their decisions before that point. Would they have, would that allow them to survive that far?
Good question. Are we getting hints here of people who might survive the book of the Bow Street?
It could still change. This is all just ideas going from my head. I could just have a big explosion at the end and everybody dies. So
that would just be mean.
Yeah. Well, I suppose because it's when it is going to book 10, and it's technically, I suppose anybody can die, because they don't necessarily need to be around beyond book 10, because there's no planned book 11 at the moment. So, yeah. But people do say to me, "Oh, don't kill off so and so, don't kill off so and so." But I don't mind if you kill so and so off though. So it's interesting. People come to say to me like, "Which character is that?" People say, "Don't kill off Sam. Whatever you do, don't kill off Sam. You know, we love Sam. He's just so salt of the earth. We love him."
Yeah, you can't kill Sam.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, no, I'll add it to the list then. No.
Yeah, we will cease to be friends if you kill Sam.
Bless him. Yeah, so it's yeah, and even like people say, "Oh, don't kill off Wolf. I really like Wolf." And I'm like, okay, add to the list then. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think most people are fair game. I don't think you can kill Sam. That'd be like shooting the golden retriever or something in the book, wouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's just not all right.
Yeah, even though realistically he could be involved in a fatal cab crash, but then that would be even more cool. Like, oh yeah, she just walks in one day, it's like, oh, Sam's dead. Like, oh, when did that happen?
Yeah, see, no.
People would not forgive me if I did that. I think
Yeah,
they'd be like,
Sam's just got to survive. He's got to be all right.
hopefully, fingers crossed.
He will be. He'll be fine. We've decided. We're if he isn't going to make the right the modern one.
Oh yeah, bless him.
The ghost of Sam is going to come back and make the modern Bow Street Society if you kill him.
Yeah, well, I could do prequels with him. He could still die in the series, but I could do prequels. No, okay.
No, it's
not good enough.
No, not good enough. Does it feel sad, kind of coming to an end of it though? Because that is kind of what you've published. So do you have other ideas? Do you feel like, because it must feel like an end, you know, when you're going to get to the end of book 10, you are going to feel a certain type of way from.
Yeah, I suppose it's kind of like saying goodbye to your friends, really, I suppose. But I find it very satisfying at the moment, though, to actually start bringing things to resolution which have been building for a while. I think that is very satisfying. That's having those moments, those gasp moments, and the dun 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 moments is quite good. But I think, yeah, when I get to book 10 right in that last scene, I think it will be a bit of sadness, thinking, oh, you know. But at the same time, as they doing a few spin-offs, you know, that especially like the Mr. Max or Miss Dexter one, that's probably the first one to come out because that's quite part of the connection to the main series, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like, you know, read in order of the main series. But I think, you know, unless I could think of something, because obviously there's the whole plot arc that runs throughout the whole series. I think Dave actually drives the series at the moment. I think unless I could think of something as equally as riveting, as equally as good as that, I think I'll just be continuing for the sake of it. And I'd rather end the series on a high than just try to drag it on for the sake of it, really. And I do intend to have everything resolved by end of book 10. So, you know, if I never continue again, it's all resolved. If I did want to pick it up, I could always start new things, but it'd always be crime fiction that I would write. So the other genre I like is sort of like 1940s hard-boiled detective fiction. So I would maybe like to try my hand doing sort of that kind of style, like first-person narration, but shifting it over to America. So I think that would be quite interesting sort of genre to explore. But as I think I'm always going to be, you know, have a soft spot for the members of society, and I'll probably find some way of revisiting them from time to time. And if, you know, if one of the spin-offs becomes really popular, I find really good, really interesting, I think it's got legs, and I might then continue beyond that. They might have end up being their own little series, but you know, because there's so many characters, there's so many people, and so many possibilities that you could just run with. So
writing one set in America is putting you back on a plane, though. You may have
not necessarily. Yeah, but I just don't like Rex Stout, Raymond Chandler, all those sort of people, like, you know, Walter Mosley. You know, I really love that genre. So I think it'd be something completely so different to society itself. But still a sort of private detective, but a bit more traditional type detective sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I can see you doing that really well, actually. I think it would be a thing that you could pull off really well.
Yeah, but then at the same time, like, I would like to maybe, you know, if I was to sort of do like another sort of spin-off series, you know, people will say to me that Conway is their favourite sort of police character. So I would quite like to maybe explore the possibility of doing a like gritty police procedure with him, but in like, you know, the late 19th century, early 20th century, but being very much so exploring the darker world of his day-to-day working life, because you don't really see that in the society books, but he's dealt with a lot of things that are a lot more darker and a lot more sort of sort of macabre and just a bit more sort of dramatic, really. So I think that'd be quite interesting to explore that side of things through him.
I think a police procedural at that time would be kind of interesting anyway, because they got away with a lot.
Yes,
You know, I mean, we are talking about police procedure very loosely.
Yes. Oh, but also if it was a spin-off that continued on from the book Turbo Society, also it's interesting to explore a dynamic for him within the police force, given what sort of has happened obviously to him so far in the series. He has lost a lot of respect amongst his colleagues for his connection to the society. So I think it would be interesting again to see how he would deal with that and having to still operate within that organisation while being loathed by a lot of it. So
yeah, very true. That would be quite interesting, because he's kind of dealing with that as you go through the books, isn't he? You know, he is having to sort of deal with that.
The juggling between his sort of he's sort of trying to live by his own code of honor, but at the same time sort of sticking, being true to his loyalty to the police, but also sort of trying to sort of support society because he does believe in what they're doing, and he is very much stuck in the middle. And I think that's why people quite like him, because he is trying to do the right thing, but at the same time protect people that need protecting, and sometimes to his own detriment and actually at his own expense. He'd rather him himself suffer than somebody else. So that's sort of the stance he sometimes takes.
Right, give us your things you've read and enjoyed recently.
So I recently read Hunter's Chase by Val Penny, which is the first Hunter Wilson book. So that's set in Edinburgh. That's a modern police procedure. I really enjoyed that. That was quite a few laugh out loud moments of that. I really liked that. I'm currently reading The Station Road Sewing Circle by Lou Lewis. So it's actually a collection of short stories, but it's basically it's a group of ladies in Pembroke, and each lady, is married to, like, so one's married to the policeman, one's married to like the undertaker, and one's married to like the bin man. And so they meet like once a week for their sewing circle, but they basically identify problems or little mysteries within their town, and then they use their influence with their husbands or the influence of the community to basically then like get to the bottom of the mystery. So I've just read the second short story in there, so that I'm really enjoying that. But I've read quite a lot of books this year actually. I've recently enjoyed The Midnight Man by Julie Anderson, but also I've read Death in the Aviary by Victoria Dowd before we did the historical panel for the group. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. That's very much sort of a golden age sort of style detective fiction set in 1929. So I did enjoy that. So definitely one I'd recommend. That's the first in her Charlotte Blood Chronicles series.
I was like, when we ask you this question, because you always read other members of the group.
Yeah. Because if I'm on a panel with anybody, I like to read at least one of their books. But it's also helped me discover some like really good authors and really like good series. And like they now become like my Shut Up and Take My Money authors, like especially like Chris Speck. I loved his North Burton series with Highwayman, and that's very swashbuckling. And I love, so I'm definitely going to be reading like more of his other series that he's done. And so Julie Anderson, Victoria Dowd, Val Penny, I sort of met at Books on the Beach a few years ago anyway, and I'd actually won the book in the raffle, and it was on my to be read pile for a while, and I finally got around to reading it, and I really enjoyed that. But again, I've still got loads more books to read on my to be read pile, but I'm slowly getting through them.
Yeah, I'm trying to make my to be read pile go down, and I keep winning a bit every so often, but then getting more books to add.
I made the mistake of walking past the Waterstones table of crime fiction the other day, and I had to take a picture of the table because I saw so many books, and I thought, well, that looks good. Well, that looks good. That looks good. And like, okay, well, I'm going to have to buy all these books now.
I'm reading The Fair Botanists at the moment. That's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
It's been on my book pile for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a really fast reader, though. I literally can probably finish like a book like every 2 weeks, possibly. I'm quite a slow reader, but
yeah, I think it's just I don't actually know why I'm a quick reader.
You just like scan like right, done.
Like, this is the thing. My husband said this to me. He's like, you haven't read that properly, and I'm like, I have. And then I'll like read the entire story of the book, and he'll be like, yeah, actually. So
Yeah.
I like read at pace, but I do pay attention.
Yeah. Well, I suppose sometimes, like, you know, reading becomes like it's the same as almost like for you, almost like watching a film. So you forget you're actually reading a book. You're just watching the action in your own mind's eye. So you can read quite quickly. When that happens, you're like, what happens next? What happens next?
I mean, artificially, my thing inflates because I read a lot of comics
Yeah.
and things as well. So I might
mean,
have like a ridiculous total of books I've read, but some of them will be like manga and comics and things.
I said we're talking about like that. I did last year, and also some of this year as well. I read London Gothic graphic novel series. So he's currently got 3 of the chapters published. They're working on chapter 4, but that is set in like late 19th century London, but it's very sort of classical. It's got like Punch and Judy in there. It's got like Sweeney Todd and Mrs. Lovett in there. So obviously you've got sort of like there's you know, the central sort of like setting sort of facets and that sort of thing are like accurate, but they've got this fantastical world built on top of it, and the artwork's beautiful. So that's Nick Henry who's written that with his artist. That's really good.
There's some really good Victorian crime novel, like graphic novels, where they retell, you know, sort of true crimes.
Yeah.
But in that sort of almost Penny Dreadful style.
Yeah. Yeah, people have said to me that they think that my books would make good like graphic novel.
I think they would, because if you think about things like From Hell, that's like, you know, kind of Victorian Critus Bad Jack the Ripper, but like it works really well. And there's a lot of really famous crime authors that do write like graphic novels. And Val McDermott's written her own. Ian Rankin and Denise Mina have done runs on Hellblazer.
See, I can't draw, you see, so I'd have to get someone to do the drawing.
Well, no one does draw, do they? like you get people who write it and then the artists who do the inking. So it is always a collaboration.
Yeah, I'll add it to the project pile because I'm currently recording. Well, I'm still recording the audio book for the Case of Curious Clients. So, I mean, my voice actor's been recording quite a lot of the characters, the male characters for that. So that we've actually recently done Sam's voice for the book. So that was really good. So basically, our aim is to get all the male characters sort of done by end of the year. So hopefully, we actually have it finally out next year.
No, that'd be cool.
So it's basically you know, I've got the narration done, I've got Dr. Weeks' dialogue done, got 2/3 of the female dialogue done. I'm just we're just over halfway with the male dialogue. So basically I've got 4 people doing it. But it should sound amazing. I've done a little sample for like the voice actors and the narrator, and it with a complete scene, and it did sound really good with all the different characters sort of chipping in and then the narration in between. So
yeah, it does sound really good. And it's an extra thing that'll help people discover the series, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, being cost, yeah.
The more things that help people discover it, the better. It's a series
exactly.
I love. So
thank you.
It's one I recommend regularly to people.
Yeah, thank you.
Very welcome. You've got a minute left to remind people what they're going to go away and buy.
So well, quick, but yeah. So I like the Bow Society series. The first book in the series is The Case of the Curious Client. It's available on ebook and paperback for your usual Amazon Marketplace. Also Kindle Limited. I've got a website, bowstreetsociety.com. You can find out more. I do have a YouTube channel, which I have a regular in conversation with web series there. I chat to different people. I've got a blog on my website. Obviously, currently I've got the interview with Dr. Claire Smith from the Metropolitan Police Heritage Archive about their new exhibition, 150 Years of the Crime Museum. But if you want to get into the series itself, then this is the first book to start with. I recommend you start with the first book, as I say, because different character plots that run throughout. But it's for Amazon.
You've got a Facebook group as well now.
Yes, the Bow Street Appreciation Society. So that was named by the fans. So it's that steadily growing yet. So I do regular posts in there, sort of like as if from the character's point of view. So you've got Mr. Verity's like Monday Mysteries, Miss Lady Allison's Wednesday Wonderings, but also I have exclusive content. So I have a Thursday Thoughts where every week I just do like a 5 to 10 minute little audio clip, just telling people where I am, what I've been doing, and also sort of my thoughts for the series and everything. So it's a private group, so you have to apply to join. But that's on Facebook, Bow Street Appreciation Society.
Very good it is too. I've joined.
Oh, thank you.
And then it's always a joy to have
Thank
you
you.
on.
It's always a joy to be on. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
And thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.